NFL free agency is kind of simmering down a little bit, so we thought, why not do a first-round mock draft with a special guest? Guys, welcome to First and 10. It's not just myself today. I am joined by my good friend, Emery. Emery, say what's up. We're also doing odds and evens. He's taking the odds. Emery, say what's up, your channel, all that stuff.
Yeah, guys, I'm part of the Rough Draft. It's a new channel for us. I've actually been podcasting and doing draft content for 3 years, but I'm opening up a new journey in my life. I played football back in the day. I coached and I recruited, so that's where my kind of background comes from. So I'm really excited today. I really appreciate you having me on the First and 10 podcast, and I'm excited to mock draft, kind of predict what these teams want to do after this free agency frenzy that we had this last week.
Yes, so this is going to be more of a predictive mock draft, but we're obviously going to have our opinions kind of thrown in there. Start the draft up. He has taken the odds, which means he has the unfortunate task of picking for the Las Vegas Raiders. Go ahead, Emery. Who are you taking? Who could it be?
Yeah, right. I am a Raiders fan, actually. That is my team of choice. And we had a crazy free agency with the whole Max Crosby thing.
Oh, yeah.
It was something else, especially from sitting where I thought we were going to have 2 first-rounders. But the obvious pick is Fernando Mendoza. I'm actually pretty high on Fernando. When I do my big boards and stuff, I kind of base my stuff off of no positional value. And Fernando's still a top 10 player for me, so that's really good for ours. Cam Ward, actually, for us last year was in the 40s. So I'm a big fan of Fernando. I believe in him as a player. So I'm really excited, and I think he's got a lot of pro demeanor, and I think he can help Las Vegas turn around what they've kind of dug themselves into in this last year.
Yeah, and the thing that Las Vegas did such a good job of this offseason is really surrounding their young quarterback with people that can help him guide himself along as he develops his first year. Talking about a guy who has a second-year running back in Ashton Genty, who is very talented and very good. And then you have a tight end, quarterback's best friend, maybe the best in the league when he's fully healthy, in Brock Bowers. And now you put a center in front of him who's going to help call out the protections, call out the mic, all that stuff that can just alleviate some of the pains of Fernando Mendoza, who's going to be developing and figuring things out. He's got some decent weapons on the outside too. And, you look at that defense now with Max Crosby, Dean, Quay Walker, some of the guys they kept and added to the secondary. It's not a bad team at all, man. And I really believe in their head coach, and they still got some other moves they could potentially make. I feel like the Raiders are really setting themselves up nicely for both this year and next year. But, you're the Raiders fan. What do you think about the team's free agency so far? And also, what else do you think they can do in this year's draft outside of Mendoza to take them to that next step?
So I'm actually really excited about a guy you didn't mention, in Taron Johnson. I think that nickel is such a big position at the NFL level nowadays, and it's kind of overlooked. I actually talked about this on my last video, but I think next year I'm going to do 12 positions and make a nickel-only position group because it's become such a big deal recently. And a lot of teams are now playing like it as a base. You look at Buffalo that did that, and then that's where Taron Johnson's coming from. Very, very excited about him. I also think if you talk about the draft, we do have a pick at the beginning of the second round. I wouldn't be mad if we tried to move up a little bit and found a way to get Fernando Mendoza's teammate in Omar Cooper Jr. and kind of get that nice cohesion that they had. And I'd be really excited about Omar Cooper making a way to Las Vegas. We need a wide receiver. That's not in question. We drafted Jack Besh and Dante Thornton last year, so we have some young guys. But I'd love to have Omar Cooper on our team. I actually really think this is a really good wide receiver class in general. So if we didn't, find a way to get Omar Cooper, obviously there's a lot of good wide receivers that we could find even on day 3, late day 2, and even going into the early day 3 range.
100%. All right, we're going to take Fernando Mendoza here, who just had an unbelievable year for Indiana and is a perfect fit for what this team wants to do. He's going to have some development. There's going to be some flaws in year 1, but he's going to figure it out. I'm up at number 2 here with the New York Jets. Kind of an interesting offseason for them. Obviously, bringing back Geno Smith to probably be a 1-year starter did not work out in Las Vegas, unfortunately. Some of that was on him. Some of it was things outside of his control, but a lot of it was on Geno just having a big step back. I do think in New York, though, he will find maybe a bit more success, having a good offensive line in front of him, having Breece Hall, having Garrett Wilson, Adonai Mitchell, Mason Taylor. The defense, though, is really the unit that they have been looking at addressing the most. They've added in Kingsley, Joseph Osai. They traded for Tavondre Sweat. They added Demario Davis. I'm obviously going to take Arvell Reese here. This feels like this is what's probably going to end up happening. And I think when it talks specifically about Arvell, him entering into a situation where he's going to be seen as one of their better pass rushers, but also when he does play that off-ball linebacker role, getting to learn from one of the best linebackers in the game, and Demario Davis, is going to help him out significantly. So as he's developing as a pass rusher, you have some decent options there in Osai, Kingsley, and Will McDonald. But as an off-ball linebacker, too, he gets to develop. So I think it's a good spot for him. He is what, in my opinion, Aaron Glenn likes in terms of linebackers. Bigger, stronger. You look at who he had in Detroit with Alex Anzalone and Jack Campbell, both bigger, stronger guys. Arvell is he's a big dude, but he also moves so well. I mean, you can see he ran a 4.46 at the combine. Lots to like about him. Let me ask you this. Do you think he's more – let me rephrase this. If you were a coach, do you prefer him more off the edge or do you prefer him as an off-ball guy?
To me, there's probably no question. I think he's an edge. And I know a lot of people want him to play off-ball, but if you're going to take him at number 2, and we're going to have this very similar conversation with his teammate here in a minute, but if you're going to take him so early – that guy, he's really good too. But if you're going to take Arvell Reese so early, he probably has to play edge for you. And I've seen, we used to have the New York Jets that played the 3-4, and now they're moving back to that 4-3 a little bit. Aaron Glenn, I believe, is actually going to be calling the defense this year, which will be really good because all of those things kind of help, a young player when you have like a head coach that's had a lot of experience doing that. Now, with me for Arvell is my number 1 edge. I think that he is.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the situation is he doesn't have a lot of production. Everybody says that, only the 6.5 sacks and all that stuff, and it only came in the first half of the year. But at the same time, he wasn't asked in the second half of the year to be that guy as an edge rusher. No, the thing that I always look at is, okay, like the pass rush win rate. A lot of people are like, oh, but he's only got like a 14% pass rush win rate. Well, you have David Bailey's got 22%. And I'm like, well, that's great. But look at his pressure per snap rate. As a guy that is a deep blitzer and a guy that makes plays in the backfield, he's got like a 23% pressure per snap rate as a guy that actually is moving towards the quarterback. He is so explosive, so athletic. He can dip. He has a power profile for a guy that plays linebacker that has a power profile off the edge and puts guys like Drew Shelton in the lap of the quarterback. And then on the next play, he bends under them. I think Arvell Reese is legit, especially as an athlete. But if you can create the edge rusher that I can see him becoming, he will be unstoppable. He's one of my I actually put my big board on the First and 10 website if y'all want to go check it out. But he is our number 3 player in this class. I am very excited about him, and I think that he's one of the few blue chip players in this class.
Absolutely. Great. I mean, honestly, that little tidbit there on the pass rush win rate and pass rush per snap, like all that stuff right there is really interesting stuff there because you do hear a lot of the time about like David Bailey being the number 1 edge. And my explanation for why I think Reese is just the better prospect over David Bailey is just that there is that extra layer of versatility to his game, that ability to not only just play off the edge, but also play off-ball linebacker and be solid enough in coverage, be somebody who can be moved all over the front 7. I mean, that's something you just can't do with David Bailey. Like David Bailey, pure edge rusher, you probably take him out on some rundowns. Arvell Reese, he is a 3-down player, and maybe 2 of the 3 downs he might be, playing off-ball, and then 1 down he's playing pass rusher on obvious pass rushing situations. So that level of versatility, especially for a New York Jets team that's just lacking identity right now on the defensive side after the Quinnen and Sauce trades, now you can find that guy who gives you that identity with Arvell Reese, and you don't have to have this intense amount of pressure for him to be this immediate dominant pass rusher because he's going to be developing his tools over a few years. But he goes to a team that has Osai, has Kingsley, has Will McDonald. They have pieces there, a lot of young pieces too. Those guys are all young. So Arvell can kind of develop that repertoire while also being a really good off-ball guy. Again, I do agree, though, that you have to use him in both fields. You can't just use him only as off-ball because spending the 2nd overall pick on an off-ball linebacker is quite rich.
Right, of course. And one thing I did want to say, because I know you're a Texas fan, week 1 against Texas was really when he jumped off the page to me.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. Yeah, right, exactly. Was it DJ Campbell played right guard for y'all? He put him in the backfield and then went and made the play. And I was just like, dude, this dude's different. I don't really know who he is or what he does, but I'm like, this guy's playing at a level that I'm like, this is in a like first round draft pick in the first week of the year. And I was like, okay, who is this guy? Now I got to go figure out what's going on here. So
Yep.
very exciting player. I'm really excited about his development, especially if the Jets can maximize his development.
All right, you're up at number 3. Who you taking?
Okay, so I was thinking about this one a lot because I really wanted Arvel Reese to be here. First off, that was going to be my, the go-to, of course. But I don't think it's worth, and I think this is a big conversation to have. I'm not on the train that there's an offensive tackle or guard, slash guard here, because most of them are considered that should be going number 3 overall. I'm more close to thinking that we should be taking best player available, blue chip type prospects. And my favorite player in this class, there's 2 of them that are actually above Arvel Reese, who we just talked about. They both play on the same team. They both play for Ohio State. And it's between Caleb Downs and Sonny Styles. I don't think Caleb Downs is the guy I'm going to pick here. I'm going to go Sonny Styles. I think the combine and the insane speed and abilities that he can do. He's got the cleanest tape I've ever seen. I played linebacker in college. I watch linebacker very strictly. I'm pretty tough grader on them, and this dude has the cleanest tape I've ever watched. The Indiana game, everybody talks about it. Well, there's a reason they talk about it, because I don't think he took a bad step the whole game. And the ability that he has in coverage also, because he moved down from safety, the size, the speed, the sideline to sideline ability, and he takes on blocks in different ways. So he doesn't just go and stack and shed every play where he's going to put his head in there and press, but he also, dips a little bit and gets under guys and makes plays in different ways. Sonny Styles is the most, first off, he was our GTDR course, and on our old channel, we always in the summer would pick one guy from every position that we thought had the best chance to explode. Ashton Genty was one of them last year. Sonny Styles was a guy I was like, there's no way this guy isn't the best linebacker when it's all said and done. And, of course, he just goes out and is an absolute beast. He's the green dot player. He does all the right things. I just think he's so good, and that's why Sonny Styles is the guy.
Yeah, Styles, obviously he's been a top 10 player for me for, honestly, several months now. There was a point, though, where I was a little bit, hesitant to call him a top 5 player in this class. And then you turn on that Indiana tape and you're like, there's not a better player in this class than this guy. It was unbelievable. My only concern with Sonny Styles, and Emery, you played at the position, you know a lot about linebackers, probably more than I do. So I think it's a good conversation to have here. There's a play late in the Miami game. Obviously the game they lost, Miami goes on to, almost win a championship that year. It's I think it's one of the last plays out there. Styles, it's sort of an outside run with Mark Fletcher, who's big, strong, nasty with it, right? He's a good player. Yeah. Sort of an outside run. Sonny Styles is getting blocked by a tight end. Now, Styles has one job there. His job is to basically push the tight end enough to force Mark Fletcher to bounce back inside, where he has help from Caleb Downs to go there. He does not. So my question for you about Sonny Styles, because on that play, he blocks out Sonny Styles. Fletcher goes beside Sonny Styles. He doesn't get tackled by Styles. He gets the first down. GG's, game over. If you force him inside, Caleb Downs makes the tackle. I think it's 4th down, I want to say, so they kick the field goal. They're probably still going to lose the game no matter what, but still, right?
Sure. Yeah.
My question for you about Styles, do you worry a little bit about him coming down, playing safety, moving inside to play linebacker? He's a massive dude, 244, so he can obviously pack on the weight. Are you at all concerned about his ability to get off blocks against physical offensive linemen? Because I feel like when there is a mauler in front of him, he does struggle to get off the blocks. Now, as you mentioned, he's unbelievable at not getting blocked, right?
Right.
But when guys do get their hands on him, I do have some general concerns. Not enough concerns to not take him here at 3, but just sort of some smaller concerns. So what are your general thoughts on that before we move on?
So for me, the other question also becomes, he hasn't repped it enough in his career, coming down from safety and being in the box as much as he has been. I also think, he's a guy that, and we've seen this a little bit, he goes on the edge and plays off the edge and, does a little bit more than just a normal linebacker. I don't think that he's kind of a positionless guy. He plays Mike, he plays Will, he plays Sam. So when he does get in the box and has to take on those bigger guys, I just want more reps. I don't know that I am going to just bash him, but I just want to see him, play the position more. Now we know he's smart, we know he's fast, and all those things, but the biggest question mark would be if you're going to move from safety to linebacker, can you take on blocks? I think that he's done such a good job taking on blocks compared to what I would expect him to have coming down from safety, that
Right.
I believe he will just get better rather than, I understand your worry. He also had the worst game of his year against the Miami team. That Miami team came to play, knock him in their mouth, and he did. He also missed his only tackle of the year in that game. So all of those things, I think that, if you just watched that game alone, you might not say Sonny Styles is the number 3 overall player in this draft. But if you watch the whole group and the whole year of games, you're going to be like, Sonny Styles deserves to be at least the top 5 player in this class. And I understand your concern, but I believe that he will at least give a chance to kind of right those wrongs over his career, if that makes sense, and get better.
100%. I feel like this is a linebackers fan dream right now. We got a quarterback and 2 off-ball, potentially off-ball linebackers here, and from Ohio State, of course, just unbelievable. All right, before I got the Tennessee Titans, and I'll make this pick quick. We spent a lot of time on these ones, so I'll be kind of quick here with this one. This one comes down between David Bailey and Jeremiah Love for me. I think David Bailey is a great football player, purely going to be off the edge. I personally think the defense is kind of in a okay spot right now, just because I think with Robert Saleh there, he's an elevator of talent. They also brought in a number of free agents and a number of they did a trade for Jermaine Johnson. They also have the Oladejo guy from last year who they're still developing off the edge. So I'm actually going to go with Jeremiah Love here. I feel like this offense just lacks any identity outside of Cam Ward. They did bring in Waddle. I don't love the idea of Waddle being my number 1 go-to option. So let's change that. Let's have Jeremiah Love be our number 1 go-to guy. Waddle, I think they're keeping Calvin Ridley, by the way, which is kind of weird, but you keep him as well. We'll figure out the other receivers. You have they had Chika Conquo.
Yeah.
You're Gunnar Helm now be your guy.
Yeah.
You have your 2 young rookie receivers who you're going to continue to see what they can do. I'm going to take Jeremiah Love here, who, spoiler alert, is my number 1 player in this class. I think he is unbelievable. I think he is kind of made of the same cloth of a Bijan Robinson type of guy. And we've seen what Bijan, Saquon, those sort of guys can do. Not saying he's going to be Bijan or Saquon, but around that same level. So I think for Tennessee, they thrived and they were at their best when they had Derrick Henry. Let's go ahead and get another one in Jeremiah Love. Different style, different player, but will be equally as productive. So I'm going Jeremiah Love.
Perfect. I'm technically lower on Jeremiah Love if you just take the consensus draft board, because I think he's moved all the way to 3 after the combine, and I have him actually I have him at 6, which isn't bad. It's really good. It's just I have a couple guys that have injuries that we're going to talk about here in a minute that are a little bit lower for most people. I have them. I take the injury into account, but I also see the tape and I'm like, I think I just have to keep those guys higher. But at the same time, I think Jeremiah Love's an incredible player. He's technically not a blue chip player to me in the way of I think I have Ashton Genty actually higher than him overall. Ooh. And I hated the pick for the Raiders last year for Ashton Genty. I was actually much higher on pick Armand Membu and build out the offensive line because we had such a bad offensive line. We needed that love. And we couldn't maximize a running back. I actually kind of feel the same way with Tennessee. I think you're right on predicting that they might go with Jeremiah Love. I think that especially if Sonny Styles is off the board and Arvell Reese are off the board, because I think Saleh would like those things, those guys in there, so they could have that Fred Warner or, that type of player that could be their green dot player in the middle. Jeremiah Love scares me in the way that he's going to be picked really high and he's going to be asked to do a lot for a team that might not have the offense ready to deal with, his abilities. And that's kind of my worry. I don't know where you were at. I'm guessing you have Jeremiah Love over Ashton Genty overall. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Just putting it out there.
When it comes to these recent stretches of running backs, I think Bijan, Saquon, they're kind of in a tier by themselves. I think those 2 were just unbelievable prospects, right? But I think when you start having the conversation about the Ezekiel Elliott's, the Ashton Gentys of the world, that's where I more so have Jeremiah Love. And I loved Genty last year. I thought he was really good. I think Jeremiah Love's better, personally speaking. I just think he's a better overall player, even though Genty had an almost Heisman level season. And by the way, he's going to be really good this year for Las Vegas. I think they're going to figure it out. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, though, when it comes to the Titans. they don't have the offensive line right now. Point blank simple. They just don't. I think that the left side's good enough. Dan Moore, Peter Skoronski's fine. I think you're really worried more so about can J.C. Latham take that next step, which we haven't seen him take. What do you do there? I don't know. But then you could then ask yourself the question of like, okay, do you take an offensive lineman here at number 4 when there's just not an offensive lineman here who's better, at least in my personal opinion, than Jeremiah Love? So, it is one of those questions of will they value positional value and go with a more valuable position, or are they going to stick and just take potentially the best player? So I think it's a good point.
Yeah, I actually agree though. If you're the Titans and you're picking, I think Jeremiah Love is definitely one or two on your big board at this point.
Absolutely.
So I'm completely with you there.
All right, New York, who are you taking?
So this is such a hard choice now because we did get rid of Sonny Styles. I think he would have been the first guy on my list if I would have had a chance. I'm not as high on the receiving class, except for I'm still really, really high on Mr. Jordan Tyson. Jordan Tyson is my number 1 receiver. But the problem is, can you take him at 5 with the injury concern and all that stuff? It's going to be really hard to convince me to do that. And then also, I don't know if we're doing a predictive mock, I don't think he's going to be the first guy off the board.
No, it'll be
Tate. Oh man, yeah, it would be Tate, exactly. Oh man, this is tough right here. They're not going to go edge because they've got 3 of them, and they got to get rid of Thibodeau anyways. Man,
right.
I don't want to go offensive line. I know they could do it.
I did Maui Noah on my channel, and
did you? Okay.
Giants fans, some of them don't love it, but it's like, hey man, what do you want me to do here?
Well, this is the conversation I'm having in my head right now. Like, there's not a really good answer. I mean, if I was going BPA, it would be Caleb Downs, but I think they're probably fine at safety overall. I don't know if they want to do that, but he is such a dynamic football player that I think you could kind of let him do anything. To me, he can play box, he can play one high, he can play split, like he can do it all. So, am I going to talk myself into him, or am I going to pick the other Ohio State player? That's the real question. Let's go wide receiver. Let's go Carnell Tate. Because I think if we're just going over talking about what the NFL is, what I should predict the NFL to do, I think that's probably going with Carnell Tate. I actually have Carnell Tate 13th on our big board, and that's just because I'm not 100% sure that he's a number 1 option. And that's because we haven't seen it, first off. Like, if everybody wants to go back and look at their own team, Carnell Tate hasn't been the number 1 option at Ohio State ever. You had Emeka Buka and Jeremiah Smith for the last year, and then this year you had Jeremiah Smith. But the step that Carnell Tate took was just so incredible this year. The contested catches, the 0% drop rate, like all those things. I think that he's such a good complement to a Malik Neighbors. Because in my opinion, I don't want him to be the number 1 receiver. I want him to be number 2. And I think so the complement-wise, I think Carnell Tate fits great. So I will be going Carnell Tate, and I had to take myself it took me a long time to get there.
No, it's a good pick. Him and Malik Neighbors would be dynamite, and just that duo right there. Got to replace Waddle with somebody, and I think Tate would be an upgrade there. 6, we got the Cleveland Browns, who I think they would have taken Carnell Tate here, if I'm being honest with you. I wonder now if this kind of becomes their first offensive line territory. They did a great job. I don't want to, let me rephrase that. They did a good job of getting bodies in the room now. Titus Howard, Elton Jenkins, and they brought back Tevin Jenkins too, and Zion Johnson on a massive deal, but they had to do it. You still don't feel great about your tackles because I think Titus is at his best at guard. He can play tackle. I prefer him at guard. Jenkins will probably play center for you, and then Zion's a guard. So you probably need 2 tackles still. The board is kind of falling okay here where you have Maui Noah and Spencer Fano. I also will say I do love the back of round 1 offensive line class. They're there at 24. I think there's a number of really good options. So I'm not really set in stone here that I'm going to do that. I mean, receivers totally in play here, and so on my big board, I actually have Lemon number 1, but I always do the caveat that if Tyson didn't have any injury concerns, he'd be my 3rd ranked player in this class. So he is very high on my board, but can he stay healthy? That's the big question. I, in this spot, am actually going to go with, I'm trying to think what they would do too. So partially predictive, partially my thoughts here. I'm actually going to go with Mekhi Lemon here, and there's a few reasons why. Number 1, I think they've done an okay job of shoring up the offensive line. I think you can push that need a little bit down the board right now, and there's some really good depth in that position, which is actually funny because one of the concerns earlier in this draft cycle was that the offensive line depth was terrible. Now it's kind of flipped a little bit to where it's actually not too bad when you sat down and kind of watched everybody. With Mekhi specifically, I think that he and Shador would be a good combo. Shador for at least 1 year. We'll see if he earns the job the rest of the season and moving into the year after. But I think him and Shador would be a good combo. Plus, you have these receivers in, an Isaiah Bond and a Jerry Jeudy, et cetera, who you just can't trust. You can't rely on them. If I take Jordan Tyson, I can't trust him to stay healthy. The bare minimum with Mekhi Lemon is I trust the guy to catch everything. I trust the guy to give a ton of effort. I trust the guy to stay healthy. I trust him to be always open, whereas with these other guys, they're so high variance. I just need somebody who's steady. And at number 6, it might be a little bit rich, but I think he's a premier talent in this league, and I think the Browns would be smart to draft somebody who's just reliable for them.
Sure, I completely understand. I'm lower currently on Mekhi Lemon versus like consensus. I actually have him 4th as he's our wide receiver 4. And that's just because, and I know that's a big take actually, because everybody's like, well, he's either 1 or 2 with the Jordan Tyson injury and stuff like that. Yeah. I really like Casey Concepcion. I pushed him up our board.
He's good.
A lot of people have him still in like the early 30s, and I'm like, there's no way. Like, he's so explosive. He's done all the things. So I'm actually higher on him in general, but I understand the Mekhi Lemon take. I think he does a lot of really good things in the underneath and the intermediate part of the field. The problem with me in that pick is that they have a lot of players that already do that. So that makes me a little worried. But at the same time, you're going for, best player on the board, in my opinion, with them, because they don't need defense and stuff like that. So you're really constricting yourself to either wide receiver or offensive tackle. If you like the wide receiver more, absolutely go for it. I think that's a fair pick. I think it's great. Great pick.
All right, here you go. Who are you taking for Washington?
So I thought Jeremiah Love might actually still be on the board, and that was who I was going to go with, because he normally either goes at 4 or falls to 7. But the guy that I'm going to go with is the guy we keep talking about in Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs is the best football player in this class to me. As a football player, he's not the best athlete in this class by any means, but I think he's the best football player in this class. They were ranked 32nd last year defensively. They have to get better, and unless they want to go all offense, like if Jeremiah Love was here and go all offense and just say, hey, we're going to be really bad and it's going to be a shootout every game, and we need Jaden Daniels to score like he did at LSU, because that was an insane, those are insane video game numbers. But I think they go defense. They try to help, make some more plays back there. And Caleb Downs, I think he can do so much, especially in a Dan Quinn defense and stuff like that, that I think he's a perfect pick for them. There we go.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money this offseason, so getting a guy to, honestly, with all those pieces you have, you kind of just need that guy that can keep everybody responsible, keep the group all together. Caleb Downs is precisely that guy, and he's always been surrounded by talent. He's now going to Washington that has some good amount of talent there too. Leo Chanel, Odafe Owe, Frankie Louvu, Trey Amos, et cetera. Caleb Downs there. I mean, he's my number 2 ranked player in this class, and at times he might be number 1, so I don't disagree with you at all. 8, I got the Saints, who have had an okay offseason so far. I think they've done some pretty fun things. Obviously, the David Edwards signing was good. Travis Etienne, I guess it is what it is, and I wasn't a big fan of it, but they did it. They really have been losing a lot in the secondary, specifically corner. Right now, their current trio of corners would be Quincy Riley, Kool-Aid, and probably Isaac Yiadom. You did bring back Justin Blackman, who was a big signing they had last year, and you do have Justin Reed, so their safeties are okay. Corners, I definitely would consider Mansour Delane here, but I do like the talent a lot of David Bailey, who I don't want to say he is the Saints type of guy. They're very particular in terms of they like their bigger edge rushers, so he's a bit different from what they usually go to. But you're looking at the Saints team, and we pull up the numbers here, and you look at how much production they got from older guys in terms of getting after the quarterback. Their leader was Cam Jordan, and Cam Jordan, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think has signed back. He's also 36 years old, so you got to think it's not going to be sustainable. You had Chase Young, who had a good year, and then Carl Granderson, right? Both Chase Young and Carl are kind of that middle-aged guy, so you don't really have that young body in the room. Bailey, bit of a different body type from what they typically go for. I think they would be fine, though, maybe switching it up here, just because when you look at the pass rushers, there's not a ton of them that fit their style. Maybe it sounds like Keldrick Falk. So, and I'm not taking Keldrick Falk at 8,
early.
But I do feel great about David Bailey, just giving them some juice off the edge, which they badly need. So I'm taking Bailey there for the Saints.
One thing I will say about I think it's a great pick, and especially because the Dennis Allen defense was the one that really liked the bigger
Yeah, he's
edge
in Chicago now.
defenders, and he's gone. Yeah, so I think they're probably okay with taking this. They also kind of are moving to a 3-4. They do a little bit of both. They're pretty multiple. I
Yeah.
also, you know, it's an offensive team nowadays, and so getting a guy that can go rush the passer, I think Bailey is a guy that I think is such a good pass rusher. He's a guy that finishes. There's guys that get pressures and don't make sacks, and then there's guys. Oh, I'm so sorry. Whoops. There's guys that are actual finishers when they come around the edge. And so 14 and a half sacks, those 19 and a half tackles for loss. He played so well this last year that I have to think he will go. And if he wasn't going to go here, he was going to go in the next pick to KC. So I'm 100% with you here.
Here you go. Number 9. Who are you taking? Really good board for them, by the way. Some good players still here.
Yeah, I know. Too many good players. It makes it a little bit harder, right?
Right.
So corner, we just got rid of Trent McDuffie. You could go there with Mansur Delane or Jamon McCoy. I'm actually higher on Jamon McCoy, but I really want to see him run. I do think there's a big question mark around him, but he's been so far 14 months removed from his injury, and he'll be 20 months removed from his injury when the season starts. So seem to be less concerned with his injury than some people because 20 months is a really long time. So maybe he should run at his pro day on the 31st. That would be really cool and make me feel a lot better about him. But those types of things. I think they could go with a tackle and, get a right tackle because they did get rid of, what's his name? Juwan Taylor. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. The real pick is going to be Ruben Bain, though. I think we're going to go Ruben Bain. I think, he's kind of their style, actually, like that gritty type of player. George Karlaftis is kind of similar to him in how they play in their grit. And George Karlaftis is obviously taller. The arm issue with Ruben Bain is a little scary. But I think that what Ruben Bain did in the college football playoff and how he started the year, both of those things, he was just so good. And I don't know that you can pass up on him if you are the Chiefs because of his just demeanor and how he plays and he gets after it. I think that Chris Jones will love him. He can move into like 4-eye and play 3 technique at times if he wanted him to. Like he's just a baller, and he probably shouldn't be here, but he fell. I thought it was really funny that he fell after the combine because of the fact that he had short arms when everybody knew he had short arms.
Everyone knew, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of just the confirmation more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, does he really have short arms? Like, yeah, they're kind of small. It's like, I think everyone secretly was just praying, like, please, 31. That's all we need. And then when it came in way below 31, it was like, damn you. Same thing with like Spencer Fano too. Like Spencer Fano kind of had these shorter arms that everyone thought he was going to have, and now everyone's like, oh, he's a guard. It's like, really? He's kind of good at tackle. Like,
he's very good at tackle. Yeah.
All right, number 10, we got the Cincinnati Bengals, who I hate. This is kind of how the board usually falls, not necessarily in this order, but like with these guys off the board here. And I always hate it for Cincinnati because, yes, they could use a corner, but it's not their biggest of needs, right? They have other needs they probably need to address a bit more seriously. And unfortunately, with both the top pass rushers off the board coming off right before them and Caleb Downs, who would have been really nice next to Brian Cook, kind of leaves you in a spot here where it's like, do we take Francis Mauigoa and kick him inside to play guard? Bengals fans hate that pick. I kind of understand why, because Dalton Reisner was really good last year, but he's also older. You do have Dylan Fairchild, so you're fine there, but it's tough, right? Do I just take Mansur Delay and just say, he's the best defensive player? I mean, they need to address this defense seriously, pick up the best defensive player still on the board. Potentially possible, for sure. Other than that, I mean, it's Caleb Banks getting injured again at the combine is not a good look for him. And you look at the other interior pieces, I don't love them, right? Yeah. Caden McDonald at 10 is too early. Love him as a player. 10 is way too early. Peter Woods being a sub 300-pound interior defensive lineman, it's going to be tough, especially with how Cincinnati wants to be big and strong up the middle.
Right.
I almost wonder if maybe you take Dylan Thineman or Emmanuel McNeil-Warren here, because these guys, unbelievable safeties. It's just the question of, like, are you okay taking a safety in the top 10? For a Caleb Downs, I'm okay taking him. With these two, it's a bit more, I don't love it.
Sure.
So you're kind of in a tough spot. I am probably going to go with Mansur Delane here, which I know might not be a popular pick from Bengals fans, but I'm kind of like, what am I supposed to do here in this spot? I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion one way or the other? Because right now my lean is either Mansour or taking one of the safeties, or you could talk me
So,
into what's his name, Mesidor as well.
okay. So I'm personally, I think you're on the right. I think you're on the right track with Delane because you should just be picking best player available on defense here for me. And unfortunately,
Right.
like you said, they all kind of went right before they got a chance to pick. Especially because Spencer Fano and Francis Manoa didn't get picked in the first 10 or first 9, so you normally get
Mm-hmm.
another buffer player. For me, Mansour Delane would be. I mean, I'm actually higher on Jamal McCoy personally, but I understand if that's the
Injuries.
highest player on your board,
Yeah.
I would go with that. Like I said, though, with Jamal McCoy, it's all about if he runs, and that would help
Right.
me feel a lot better at night and going to sleep. But
Right.
they really, really funny enough, I would say too, Cincinnati loves big, athletic, freaky defensive linemen. And so if you were like Caleb Banks, you could kind of talk me into that too.
You could. Yeah.
But I'm with you. You can go Mansour, and I think that that's a fair pick. I don't think uh, Cincinnati fans should be mad at you, especially because you're just trying to pick the best player available on defense.
Yeah. I also love Banks. I think he's a stud. Issue is you just can't stay healthy. Right.
Yeah, I
This
know.
past year dealt with an injury, and then he gets injured at the combine. It's a tough break because it felt like some momentum was starting to build for him, and then he had that injury, which, from what I heard, is not like severe, but it does kind of raise a bit of a red flag more than anything.
Sure.
And the other thing too is with the interior defensive line class, it's not like after you get the top 5 guys off the board, it does kind of fall off a little bit. So if I'm Cincinnati, I'm really praying that one of these guys falls into their lap in round 2, or you're taking Caleb Banks, but. You did bring
Right.
in Jonathan Allen, who's an okay player. But like you said, I'm going to go with Mansour Delane here. I do agree. Jeremiah McCoy's 2024 tape is really, really good. He would be my CB1 if the injuries were good. But he does have the injury, and we haven't seen him run, move, how confident he looks in breaks and stuff like that. We saw Mansour Delane take a huge step forward this past year, and he could play inside and outside. I'm going to go with Mansour Delane there.
Completely get it. That means I get to take Jamal McCoy at 11 because I don't think there's who do they even have at cornerback right now
Yikes.
for Miami? It's pretty bad.
Marco Wilson?
Is he starting? He's not.
I
He's not.
don't know.
Luckily,
Probably
he's
not.
not.
Probably
Daryl
not.
Baker
Juju
is
Brents.
current. Based on our lads, Daryl Baker is starting, and Storm Duck. So,
Yikes.
yeah, let's put Jamal McCoy on this team, help them out in the back end because they literally just don't. They have to get rid of everybody. They have to take on Tua's crazy $99 million contract for the next 2 years. So I think that they just need to, put players on this team that are good at football. And Jamal McCoy, I think, could be that. And he's the best. He's the top player on my board currently.
Man, I'm just kind of looking at their depth chart, and it's like,
It's
gosh,
bad.
this roster's bad, man. It's pretty rough, and I think there's some talent on the offense, relatively speaking. I think Willis could have some success there. A-Chain, Waddle, Patrick Paul had a good year. Aaron Brewer's a good center, specifically for Miami. We'll see what he looks like with the new OC, but generally speaking, it's good. But that defense, yikes, man. That is rough. You better hope Kenneth Grant and Chap Robinson figure it out. Okay, 12. We got the Dallas Cowboys, one of my favorite teams. Again, this is doomsday for the Cowboys. Like this
Yeah.
is doomsday for them. This is horrible because all the good defensive linemen, all the good defensive pieces are off the clock here. And they address safety heavily in the offseason with P.J. Locke and Jalen Thompson, and they have Malik Hooker. So, no, safety's not off the board here, but it's like, that's not what I was hoping for.
It's really, really tough. It's a really,
So-
really tough draw.
Dallas is in a situation where you just brought in Rashawn Gary. Good football player. He is who he is. He's actually on a cheaper deal now, so it ends up being kind of a good move for Dallas. And they still have Donovan Ezeraku, who's dealing with a bit of an injury. He should be fine, though, for camp, is what I'm hearing. And then outside of that, it's like Sam Williams, and I guess if you bring back Jadeveon Clowney, he had a good year last year. But right tackle is in play because their right tackle spot has not been great. But to the best of my knowledge, I think Terrence Steele is still on the roster. So you have Guyton and Steele as your tackles. Not great, but you do have some money invested there to where it feels like you don't really want to go there. And that defense
Right.
was historically bad last year to where I feel like you kind of have to go defense in some way. I'll tell you my leaning again, kind of like Cincinnati. Akeem Mesidor are my 2 safeties. I think they're just the best defensive players still on the board here. I'd consider Avion Terrell, but
Okay.
man, you already have Deron Bland, Kobe Durant, who are both undersized corners. And then you have Savon Ravel, who's kind of a lankier corner. So you're just adding another corner body who lacks the size and length of what you're looking for. And I think we can maybe wait until our second first-round pick.
It's tough. You're in a
I mean, I am in freaking hell right now, but I will end up going with Akeem Mesidor. I think he's a stud, man. I think he's a beast. Not only that, yes, he's an older player, but he kind of fits the timeline of the Cowboys.
Sure.
Like Dallas is trying to win now, and they also have a lot of money in. They have a ton of money put into their younger players. So, like, I know this is not probably smart to say, but they could pull a Baltimore where they draft somebody, let him be their guy for 4 years, and just let him walk afterwards if they can't pay him. Maybe they could pay him by then, but just sort of something to throw out there. But I do think a Mesidor, Donovan, and Rashawn Gary trio with Sam Williams being thrown in there a little bit could be kind of fun there. So I guess I'll go with Akeem Mesidor for the Cowboys.
I get it. Yeah, and you can actually, and then you could also take the 5th-year option if he's good enough, and play him on for 5 years, and he'll be 30 at that point, and
be
let
30,
him go. Yeah.
Crazy.
I'm actually one of the guys that I really like mocking to Dallas at 20, because normally someone falls to Dallas not having to pick, the way down, is Zion Young. I really like Zion Young. He's one of my favorite players in this class overall. And so he's perfect to me if you get him at 20. Here at 12, it's a little rich. I'm actually not as high on Mesidor overall, but I understand, like you said, the timeline. Like, I think Mesidor is ready right now to be a contributor. Completely agree with that. So I think that you made a pick that makes a lot of sense for sure.
All right, here you go. Got
let's see. Oh yeah,
potential Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, they put all their marbles into the basket this year. They're trying to do everything they can. They still have issues in their secondary, I think, even knowing they brought in Trent McDuffie and what's his name, Watson, from both of them from the Chiefs. Yeah, Jalen Watson from the Chiefs. The question is, are they willing to take a shot on a Jordan Tyson here, considering he might be the best player, one of the best players in the class in general, if he is healthy? And they want to win now. Maybe not. I don't think they're going to go right tackle. I think they actually liked their right tackle play from last year enough to not have to do that. A lot of people are mocking right tackle there because Rob Havenstein had retired, but I think the backup was named McLennan, played well enough for them to not move on from him already. Normally this is a Mekhi Lemon spot, and he's not here, so yeah, let's go Jordan Tyson, and let's pick a wide receiver for them that can do basically everything along with the guys that they already have. They're very similar, actually. Funny enough, I think he's kind of like he doesn't have the same release. I think he's got a lot of the same release packages as Devontae, but I think he's a little bit more springy, while Devontae's a little bit more like he's got that veteran savvy. But I love Jordan Tyson. If he's healthy, it's going to be awesome.
100%. Plus, Devontae's got 1 more year left in him. There has been some trade buzz potentially surrounding A.J. Brown and Devontae. We'll see if that goes anywhere. But
sure,
I definitely think that's a good pick. I've done Mekhi Lemon there like hundreds of times. So if he's not there, then Jordan Tyson makes a ton of sense. 14 is the Ravens, who what a roller coaster of an offseason they've had so far. Obviously, you thought you had Max Crosby. Well, we'll see. We don't know what happened. All I know, it wasn't great. But you do have Trey Hendrickson now. They also brought in, was it John Simpson, I want to say they brought in. So they're kind of okay at guard now, right? Usually this is kind of a spot where I like to take one of the receivers, but nope, they're all off the table here. And funny enough, the 2 offensive linemen are here. I mean, you could kind of talk me into taking one of these guys.
Yeah, I think moving one of them to guard would make a lot of sense.
I kind of wonder if you take Spencer Fano and play him at center. Like
that would be so awesome.
Because you have Stanley on one side, you have Voorhees, you have Simpson, you have Roger Rosengarten. So you're kind of okay with everything but your center spot. Do you, taking Spencer Fano or moving Voorhees to center, like one of the two, isn't a terrible idea. Other than that, they badly could use some help on the defensive line, or just more help. And I just don't love the board here. If Mesidor was here, I would take him. You could talk me into Zion Young a little bit here. It does feel a little early for him, though. I'll be honest with you. But this is a tough spot. I also love T.J. Parker. I still believe in him a lot.
Yeah, I actually have TJ Parker above Mesidor, and
I do
Zion Young
too.
and TJ Parker above Mesidor on our board. So
I think I
I
have
completely
Parker
get
in my
that one.
top 22 or something like that.
Nice. Heck yeah.
Maui Noah, I don't think he's a center. He's either guard or tackle.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're taking him, you got to move somebody to play center. I think I'm gonna go with Spencer Fano here. I think
I,
that's what I'm gonna do. Unless
I
you,
love
you
it.
could go Kenyon Sadiq and then have him be like your Isaiah Likely, but they didn't really use Likely a ton. That's why he left. So give me Spencer Fano. Why not? He'll play center for us.
So at the combine, he was actually snapping the ball. So this makes sense that
Sweet.
people are
Yeah, he
trying
was.
to
That's right.
trying to push him into center possibly. And I think Spencer Fano just being on your team is a win, no matter what it is. I know he's got the short arms. Well, now the short arms don't matter playing center.
Yeah.
And you get the athlete that he is that he was at tackle. They're going to be killing it when he's got movement blocks. They're going to run buck and they're going to run outside zone, and he's just going to be absolutely killing it if that's what happens. So I think that's
Absolutely.
an awesome pick. Hopefully he's there.
Here you
right?
go.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I've seen some mock drafts where he's all the way down to like the 20s and 30s, and I'm like, really? I don't know about that one. I guess, but like if you're taking Monroe Freeling over Spencer Fano, I just disagree. But I'm sure some people know what they're talking about.
I think we have Monroe Freeling as like our fifth offensive tackle overall.
Yeah, me too. He's around that range. He's not in my top 3. I know that.
Yeah. I actually like Caleb Lomu a lot, so I have him above him too. So, all right, let's see. I'm Tampa Bay. I think this is one of the picks that I've actually kind of gone there with a lot. It's going to be Kenyon Sadiq. I think that
him and Cade Otton.
So yeah, Cade Otton hasn't continued to develop in my opinion. He hasn't been like this elite guy, but he also is an inline player a lot of the times. He's had injury history. He got re-signed this year, I believe, though.
I think it was a 1-year deal, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 1-year deal. So I don't see why not getting a guy like Kenyon Sadiq. It makes me feel better having a backup plan. Also, a guy that is truly a wide receiver that plays tight end. I love with Kenyon Sadiq. I don't think he's a great run blocker, but what I think he is he's a really good effort blocker. That makes me happy. Especially when you're going to get a guy that is a move tight end that plays in the slot a lot more than anything. So I think he's such a good athlete that you could build up. Now, I know most people, if you go in the chat here in a second, I'm sure OJ Howard is going to be talked about a good amount with this Kenyon Sadiq pick because of the similar like ability and like never really panning out, but the athleticism was always there. I think Sadiq has a lot of like athletic game-changing ability like that. He's a mismatch nightmare added to wide receivers, and they lost Mike Evans, so adding an athlete that can go catch the ball is why I think Kenyon Sadiq makes the most sense.
All right, I don't disagree at all. 16, I got the Jets, who took Arvell Reese, and I'm just going to continue going best player available. I'm taking Francis Mauigoa to be our Elijah Vera Tucker replacement. You got your 2 young stud tackles. They have, who is their center? I feel like their interior is kind of, I could think of, they have Josh Myers at center. They brought in Dylan Parham, who, I mean, I guess he's okay. He kind of fills the role. I don't think any of these guys are close to the talent of Francis Mauigoa. And kind of with how the board is, like, you could talk me into Avion Terrell here for sure. But you do have Azariah Thomas, who you like. You do have Brandon Stevens, who had an okay year last year. And you have Jarvis Brownlee, who they got for like super cheap, and it was pretty good. So I think they could use a safety. They brought in Minkah Fitzpatrick. I feel like that's kind of a desperate move, but I am going to go with Francis Mauigoa here. I think he's a good football player who is probably your long-term guard. Maybe, I guess you can try him at center. I like him as a guard, but you can try him at center if you need him to. So I'm taking Francis there for the New York Jets, who very often they're looking at Vega Ione, but I think Francis is just better. So I'll go Francis.
Yeah, completely agree with you. I think that Francis playing guard or tackle is a better prospect than Vega. It's crazy that he's still here. Like, we have flipped the draft a little bit with Francis Mauigoa falling all the way to 16, but at the same time, this is definitely something I could see happening if people just are like, we need to get as much defense and stuff early. And then getting the tackle in the late first, early second, it might be a better option for a lot of teams.
Right.
So, Detroit, my biggest hole for Detroit is offensive tackle. I'm glad that it's the first need on this board because Taylor Decker is retiring, and so without him there, I don't think they want to start Giovanni Manu. who was they actually traded up for him in the draft. I don't remember where he was from originally, but he was out of the
British
country.
Columbia.
Thank you. Yes, British Columbia when he
Yeah.
got drafted. I don't know that they're going to want to start him and make him the guy. I'm actually really high on Caleb Lomu over a Monroe Freeling. So that is going to be who I'm picking to play our left tackle. He's a good athlete. He reminds me of Ryan Ramczyk a little bit based on build and stuff. I think that he looks and kind of feels that way. Ryan Ramczyk actually played left tackle at Wisconsin, and how he moves, I just think he's so pro ready as a pass blocker that there's not a lot of, so like with a Monroe Freeling, who you could also pick here, who also plays left tackle for Georgia, he's more of the prototypical size, but I don't think he's as good technically as Caleb Lomu is. Caleb Lomu to me could be like A1 ready to play, while I think Monroe Freeling has a lot of time. And with Monroe Freeling, you could get Colton Miller, or you could get a guy that's out of the league in 4 years. So Caleb Lomu, I think, is really much more safe in my opinion. And I think at 17, that Detroit gets a guy that is being slept on a little bit.
All right, at 18, Minnesota. I am going to go ahead and take Dylan Thieneman here to, honestly, just be your Harrison Smith replacement.
Perfect.
I think Harrison got released, and I want to see he's going to retire or something like that. Right now, they only have 3 safeties currently on their roster. One of them is Josh Metellus, who has dealt with some injuries throughout his career. You have Jay Ward. But I think that Dylan Thieneman is a top talent in this class. I do like McNeil Warren a little bit more, but I think the versatility of Thieneman will work in his favor over McNeil Warren. And he had, just a truly outrageous combine. Some of the stuff he put out was incredible. And he's got good length, good size. He's just a good football player that did so many things for both Oregon and Purdue. So he'll translate that to Minnesota easily.
Completely agree. I think it's a good pick. They definitely need safety in Minnesota. Carolina, man. Okay. I think my favorite player that I match up with Carolina is normally Caden McDonald. But is that the best pick? Is that what like with the new board, how it fell? Is that where I want to go? Let's see.
Take your guy, KC.
Yeah, KC's there too. Yeah, he could be a really fun third with Tet and Coker. Yeah. Let's see. I think I'm going to stick with Caden McDonald. I think that what he can do as a run defender and how he plays next to Derek Brown will just be an insane interior combo. I think they're going to stop so many people from running the ball. And then their young edges, Nick Scorton and Princely Umanmielen, Wanham's still there. Like, all those guys are going to get a lot more opportunities to go on third down. And they're going to be ahead of the sticks so much more often with the Devin Lloyd who just came in and all that stuff. I think that those two guys being in the middle of your defense is just so impactful. And I'm a really big believer in defensive tackles are there to play the run on first and second down. And I think that's what he does so well. I'm really excited about Caden McDonald. I think this is a really good landing spot if he can play next to a Derek Brown.
All right, Dallas back up at 20. They took Akeem Mesidor with their first pick. I think I'm just going to take C.J. Allen here. Their linebacking core, they haven't addressed it in free agency. It is not only one of the worst, but it's also one of the thinnest linebacker cores in the NFL. And there's not a ton of linebacker options in free agency right now unless you want to make a trade for like a Patrick Queen. Good luck with that one. So they might make that trade. I know there's been kind of some buzz around that. It is a good linebacker class, but Dallas does not have a round 2 pick. They have a round 3 pick, but you're praying that one of these guys falls. And unfortunately, praying is not a formula for success in the NFL. So you got to win. You got to find ways to get the guys. I'm gonna go with C.J. Allen here. And you look at their front seven, like with Quinnen, with Kenny Clark, with Akeem Mesidor, hypothetically, of course, with Donovan Ezaraku, with DeMarvin Overshown and Akeem Mesidor, and with all the upgrades in the secondary, that defense could turn around pretty quickly. So I am going to go with C.J. Allen here. I still think they probably need one more linebacker, even if you do get C.J. and you have DeMarvin, because DeMarvin just can't stay healthy. But maybe you can find some depth options in free agency. So I'm going C.J. Allen.
Yeah, I completely get it. On our board, C.J. Allen actually is lower than a lot of people. I think C.J. Allen's coming in around that like early or late 20s range for us, but we have him a little lower. I actually really like Josiah Trotter too.
Me too. I
but
love Trotter.
Like you said, Dallas can't get any of them because they don't pick till 92. So I'm with you on getting a linebacker here. Kind of felt like 21. Dallas reached twice. Just saying.
A little bit, but it's just kind of how the board fell for them and what their team needs were, which is unfortunate.
Right.
But what they did get though is two nasty physical guys that just bring that dog mentality to a defense that last year was a bunch of puppies. This year they can be some dogs.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, Pittsburgh's really tough because you could talk about the Ty Simpson situation here if you wanted to, say, hey, they need to take a quarterback. I completely get that. I'm not sure who they're going to play at quarterback at this point, but I don't know. I think Ty Simpson will go first round. I don't know where. I personally don't like picking him in the first round because I'm just not as high on him. I think of him as in the Shadur Jackson Dart range more so than the, Cam Ward range and those guys. So I'm going to go Casey Concepcion because nice. I think how he plays is going to be such a compliment to DK and Michael Pittman, playing that underneath stuff and being an explosive player with the ball in his hands on shorter routes while those guys run basically nines every time they go out there. So I think that he makes a lot of sense for them.
All right, Chargers up at 22. This is an easy pick for me. Vega Ione. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I don't see a word where he makes it here to 22, but, sometimes it happens where a guy does fall, and he did fall in this situation. Their tackles are great. They got a new center, but your guards are still not good, which is crazy because they have all this cash. They haven't spent any of it beyond me, but we will go ahead and upgrade one of those guard spots here. And, if this is their offensive line with Ione in the fold, it's actually a really good offensive line, but I don't know. It's been kind of a weird offseason for the Chargers. I feel like they could have been more aggressive, and they didn't do a ton, which we'll see. There's still time, obviously, but I wish they would have been a bit more aggressive.
Sure. Okay, so with Philly's interesting, especially because we still have the conversation about A.J. Brown and if he's going to be gone and all of that stuff, because if he wasn't there, I think wide receivers obviously on the table. You have Denzel Boston, you have Omar Cooper, and so you have some options there. I'm going to say that he just is on the team for now because I don't know enough. And I'll probably go edge. I think edge is the one that makes the most sense to me. I'm actually going to go with TJ Parker because I think
nice. Love it.
they like, I think they like guys like this. And also they've got Jalix Hunt, who I don't think does such a great job on first and second down. I think TJ Parker could come in and play that edge spot and help them on those early downs, and then also possibly play their 4-eye and get after it from inside a little bit, because I don't know that he's an elite pass rusher by any means, but he's a really strong physical guy that has a great long arm and stuff like that. I think that he can make this team better, and they love drafting guys that fall to them and that are just better than the position that they're getting picked at, and I think TJ Parker is that.
Yeah, they're really hoping for Nolan Smith to take a step forward, but last year he was very quiet, did not have much. He was banged up a little bit too, but in the 12 games he played, I think he had 3 sacks. So he didn't really do a ton for them. And then you look at Jalix Hunt, who, Nolan Smith is tiny. Jalix got a little bit more size to him, but not as much as a TJ Parker, who is a big, strong, physical dude. Just kind of gives them a different body type in that room. So love that pick. I'm very high on TJ Parker. I haven't faltered off my love for TJ. He's not the top 5 guy we were projecting him to be, but I still think he's a top 20 player in this class. That's kind of where I stand with him. All right, Cleveland, who took Mekhi Lemon with their first pick, back up here at 24, and probably going to go with an offensive lineman here. And if we're being real, I think Monroe Freeling is probably off the board by now, but, he's not off the board here. So I'll take Monroe Freeling here, who I'm not the highest on Monroe. It does feel like the NFL is just in love with this guy. Me personally, I like Max and Blake Miller more than Monroe, personally speaking. But I'm not going to sit here and act like there's not hype around Monroe. There's a lot of hype around him within organizations, apparently. So we'll see if that ends up coming true. But we will take Monroe for the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns have a duo of Mekhi Lemon and Monroe Freeling. So I think you're feeling pretty good if you're a Browns fan.
Yeah, I think if you would have put Monroe Freeling at 6, no one would have batted an eye because a lot of people are doing it right now. So I think it makes a lot of sense that he's still there. He still goes there. With Chicago, I think they need some guys up front to play, physically for them on the defensive side of the ball. I'd really like Caden McDonald here if he was on the board. I don't think Caleb Banks fits. They already have Gervon Dexter, who is literally a print copy of Caleb Banks, who played at Florida. The whole thing, it's all the same. I don't think they want to do that because he hasn't been super productive in general. Let's go with Zion Young and put him on the edge opposite and let him just be such a game wrecker on first and second down. And I actually think he has a lot of upside as a pass rusher. And it all stems from his power profile. And guys like that just play with a lot of motor with a big power profile are guys I just love, even if they're not like the most like. It really reminds me of how Jared Verse is. Jared Verse isn't going to have like 12 to 15 tackles a year. He's going to have like 8, but he's going to make everybody feel him the whole game. And I think that's what Zion Young does.
All right. Love that pick there. I think Zion Young is, I don't want to say he's slept on anymore. It felt like for a while he was slept on because he was kind of being like that late to mid day 2 guy when it's like, no, he's probably early day 2, late round 1 sort of level. And to get him in here to Chicago makes a ton of sense because they haven't really addressed defensive line a ton. Chicago has been more so doing like patchwork for all their, people leaving. They lost their center, they get a new one in. They lose their 2 safeties, they get a new one in. Haven't really spent too much time fixing that defensive line because they've just been kind of fortifying the ship with duct tape at this point, but
right.
Hopefully that duct tape will hold. 26, we got the Buffalo Bills, who did make the DJ Moore trade, so they're not going to have a second-round pick, so they got to make this one work. This seems tough to pick for, man, because you could talk me into still taking Denzel Boston here and having Denzel Boston, DJ Moore, and Khalil Shakir be my trio. I'm not going to do that, but you could talk me into it. You could even talk me into Avion Terrell, a duo of Avion Terrell and Maxwell Hairston long-term. Could be quite fun. But I think I am going to lean with Caleb Banks here, or you know what? Sorry. I'm actually going to flip this. I'm going to do Emmanuel McNeil-Warren here instead. You have, who is the white safety in their backfield? You have Cole Bishop,
yeah,
who's a pretty well-sized player, but then outside of that, you did bring in Geno Stone, but Geno Stone's coming off 2 of his worst years of his career.
Yeah.
Right? So you can try, but I don't love it. So I'm going to go Emmanuel McNeil-Warren here, who can play close to the line of scrimmage, and Cole Bishop playing a bit more deep, McNeil-Warren close to the line. So I'll go with that.
They also brought in C.J. Gardner-Johnson, which for what that's worth, of course, and then D. Alford, who's going to play their nickel. So I think it's a really good pick just to getting a few guys that can play those few positions and like kind of rotate different positions and be very versatile back there. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm not so Emmanuel McNeil-Warren versus Dylan Thieneman. I'm much higher on Thieneman because I just think what he did and playing so versatile and how fast and athletic he was at the combine just really put him over. But I think McNeil-Warren's a good player also. The carbon copy that people want to act like is crazy to me about Nicky Manwari, though.
Yeah, he's not a clone to Nicky Manwari. I think for me, instead of it being like he's Nicky Manwari 2.0, I think it's what he'll be asked to do at the NFL level, which is to sort of play that. You have your deep safety. You want somebody who's a bit closer to the line of scrimmage, somebody who can play with their hair on fire, longer, rangier, physical in the run game. And McNeil-Warren is one of the most physical, at least from what I've seen and how I interpreted it. I think he's one of the most physical in the run game safeties in this class. Him, AJ Halsey's also kind of like that too, where he's a really physical safety. Now, Halsey's got 6 foot 220, 215 type of size to McNeil-Warren's like 6'3". I think he moves well. I think he's smart in coverage. There are some plays out there where it's like he's just reading these quarterbacks to a T, and it's super impressive. And I look at that Buffalo secondary these past few years, and man, they've been relying on guys that just, you're kind of just praying they keep it up, right? I'm blanking on his name right now. Who's the veteran that's been on their team for what feels like forever?
Taylor Rapp.
They've been relying on him.
Taylor Rapp.
Yeah, I can't remember his name. Not Rapp. No, I'm not thinking of Rapp. I'm thinking of
DeMar Hamlin.
Corner. I can't remember his name.
Corner. I'm sorry. Tre'Davious White was there.
There you go. Trey White. They've been kind of relying on Trey White, and it's like, how many more years does he have left in him? You don't feel great about your starters out there, but you like Maxwell Harrison's talent. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, like, sure, yeah, but, God, he can't stay on a team, man. It's so damn good. Right. But, like, what goes on every single year where he gets traded midway or gets cut midway? I think a duo of Cole Bishop and McNeil-Warren is just really elite stuff, man. I think I love McNeil-Warren. He is a top 20 player for me in this class. I think what he presents is something that is kind of the evolution of the game of having this bigger safety. I'm not saying he'll be Nicky Manwari or Kyle Hamilton, but I think he'll serve that kind of same purpose on this Bills defense as they try to go towards, their new defensive coordinator. We'll see what they end up doing there, how it looks when it's all put together. But I think McNeil-Warren next to Cole Bishop, and that's 2 big safeties with a lot of range. And I think McNeil Warren's a damn good athlete too. I know he ran a 4.52. I'm not worried about it. I think he moves very well for his size. And yeah, I just think in terms of that modern box safety, somebody who could play a bit in the nickel as well, he gives them sort of a weapon out there that they haven't had on that defense in a while. So I'll go with McNeil Warren. But you could also talk me into Caleb Banks there too. I think Banks on that defensive line would be nasty.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that McNeil Warren makes a lot of sense, especially because you have to get defense on their team no matter what.
Yep.
Going to the San Francisco 49ers, I have a big question about their offensive tackle situation and Trent Williams. I don't know what they're going to do, especially because he's expensive and he's 37 years old or something like that, something crazy. So I actually originally put Monroe Freeling here when he was still possible, when we did our 1.0 and then he went to the combine and that went away. But the wide receiver position is one of the ones that I think I'm going to go to here. I'm really high on Omar Cooper. I have Omar Cooper 22nd on our board. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you're on the same page as me then. I think Ricky Pearsall, I always thought he was a bust. I didn't think he was very good when he came out. I had him 13th, wide receiver 13 in that class, and then he just can't stay healthy. You also have the situation with Jawan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk, and you bring in Mike Evans and Christian Kirk, but are those players you think you can see long term? Not really. Let's put Omar Cooper on this team. Get a guy that can play both Z and slot receiver for you. Tough, physical player, goes and blocks, does all the right things. I just think he's so reliable. He's such a good football player.
Yeah, and that's kind of what San Francisco needs. They need pieces that are reliable because you're bringing in Mike Evans, who mostly healthy throughout his career, but dealt with injuries last year. He's getting older, right? Ricky Pearsall can't stay healthy. Ayuk is off the team. Jawan Jennings probably off the team. Christian Kirk is fine. He's an okay player, but he's not going to be your number one. You ideally want him to be your third or fourth option, right? And on the San Francisco team, if you have Omar Cooper be your number 2 with Pearsall as your 3 and Mike Evans as your 1, inevitably when one of those guys gets hurt, you just promote Cooper to be your number 1, whoever to be your number 2, and Kirk to be your number 3. So kind of is a safety blanket for a receiver core last year that just was flooded with injuries and guys who just didn't want to play. Now you get Cooper and Mike Evans and all those guys. I think it makes a ton of sense. 28, we got the Texans, who did get Braden Smith. Good, nice upgrade for them in the tackle room. And I feel okay about my tackles now with Ursary and Braden. I feel okay about that. Still feel like we could use some help in the guards. I know we brought back Ed Ingram. Cool. We're good there. We have one guard filled. We need a center probably as well. I'm probably going to you got to think it's offensive line here with this team. Proctor to me is a tough projection in terms of, is he a tackle or is he a guard? I think he's kind of an over-hated and misunderstood player in this class. But I also don't blame people because he's 6'6", 350, and he's from Alabama. We've kind of seen this story before a few times with Evan Neal and J.C. Latham. I think Proctor's a bit different. I think he actually can move for his size, but if if it walks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck, and we've seen it a few times now. With that said, I think Miller's a tackle. I think I can never pronounce his name. I think Max is a tackle.
Sure.
I think Pregnon's a starting guard for the Houston Texans, and I think he plays opposite of Ed Ingram.
Yes.
And I'm going with Emmanuel Pregnon.
Amen. I'm so happy you got there because I really thought you were about to take Proctor.
Nope. I love Proctor. I think Proctor's a tackle for now until I'm proven otherwise. I still think Proctor's a tackle.
So I'm one of those guys that's really low on Proctor that you probably are calling out right there, which is fine. It's more so because I was really low on J.C. Latham. They took him 8th. I was real low on it. I wasn't super low on Evan Neal, and that was where my first mistake happened. And I was just like, I'm not going to make it again. Fool me once. Can't get fooled again.
Shame on you.
Yeah, exactly. So that was kind of where I was with Caden Proctor. Caden Proctor, for me, was just somebody that I see the foot speed is such a problem, and I really wanted him to come to the combine at 335, 340, and I would have been like, okay, cool. You're right, exactly. But if he could have done that and he could have lost that weight, and I would have been a lot more comfortable with okay, let's move him back up the board. He's really showing that he can do it. I'm also with you though. I'm higher on Max. I'm higher on Blake Miller. So yeah, both of those guys. I actually have Mr. Emmanuel Pregnon 20th on our big board. So I love that pick. Yeah, I absolutely love that pick for you.
Yeah, our co-host Cade, he was the first person. Cade has some crazy takes sometimes. Like he said, we had a mock draft where Logan Jones was the first round pick. I'm like, all right, buddy, let's relax.
That's awesome.
Let's relax a little here. But like more often than not, he has some really good takes. One of those is Emmanuel Pregnon. I remember about mid-season, he had him going like in the top 15 or something like that. And we were all like, I don't know, man, it's kind of crazy. But, sometimes you can just kind of really believe in somebody and then they end up proving you right the rest of the way. And Pregnon has done a good job at that. I feel like he's kind of an underrated player. Consensus-wise, he's in the 40s. I think he should probably be in the top 30 somewhere.
So we actually are releasing our interior offensive. I'm releasing our interior offensive line video tomorrow. It'll come out around noon or something, and I think that the rankings for our interior offensive line video will be interesting for people because I actually have. And here's spoiler alert. I don't know when this is coming out, but Pregnon is above Vega on our board by two spots on our big board. Nice. It's just because I think he moves so well. He's so explosive, and he has those 11-inch hands, and when he hits you with them, you feel it, like those types of things. So I'm really big on Pregnon. But let's go to 2029 and talk about KC. I think they're who did we pick for KC first? I can't even remember off the top of my head. Bain. Oh my gosh, he fell to 9. That's right. Yep. So we don't need an edge. Man, who's here to play? Oh my gosh. Well, I could go Banks. Right. Why is he still on the board? I was thinking Blake Miller when I first saw it because he could go play right tackle for them. Yeah. Oh, man. I don't think you can pass up Caleb Banks here at this point. I think we have him top 15 on our top 18 on our big board. He's going to be a guy that just is physically gifted in a way that you're not going to find. There's just not very many of them. He's the get off the bus guy. Size, length, all the things. And he has really good film. He just doesn't have a lot of film. So that's kind of the problem. Like his Senior Bowl film was really good. He looked good there. He also, his last 4 games of his 2024 season was really good. It's just, there's not a lot of film. And so it makes you nervous, but the athlete and the talent that he is, I think at 29 is just a ridiculous find. Now you get Caleb Banks and Reuben Bain Jr. on the same defensive line with Chris Jones and George Karlaftis. Woo! Yeah. All right.
Yeah, plus Banks gets to learn from Chris Jones, which is really good for his career. So it's a good landing spot for him to, he doesn't have to be a full-time starter day one. He can kind of be a rotational piece, develop for a year or two. Chris Jones goes elsewhere. Boom, you're the starter. You're the guy. So it's a good landing spot for him. 30, I got the Denver Broncos, and I have done Keldrick Falk here a lot because I think he can kind of just be your John Franklin Myers replacement, in some ways. In terms of being bigger, stronger, could play inside, could play outside. Not much of a nuanced pass rusher, but he has shown the ability to put up some numbers. He had a couple sacks. I think he had like 9 in 2024. So he has a little bit of some of that. With that said, Denver's done absolutely nothing this offseason. It has been a very quiet one, and I don't really know why, but they did it. And there's 3 options I'm thinking of here. Well, actually, I'll do 4. Keldrick Falk, Denzel Boston, Avion Terrell, and Peter Woods. Keldrick, we talked about, sort of a John Franklin Myers replacement. Denzel Boston, him and Cortland Sutton, with all those kind of faster, twitchier guys in that room. Avion Terrell to play inside, to play the nickel, and then kick Jade out. Or have Jaquan. I guess you have Jaquan there, too. Yeah, so I guess you can do Jaquan in the nickel and then keep Avion on the outside, and then Jade can kind of just fill in wherever because Riley Moss is terrible. So that's an option. And then Peter Woods, kind of the same conversation about Keldrick, just kind of with Peter a bit bigger if you're looking for more size, which he might actually be a better John Franklin Myers replacement.
Sure.
So those are kind of my thinking points here. I think I'm just going to go with Denzel Boston, though. Just give him a big weapon on the outside for Bo Nix. You have Cortland Sutton, who's been really good for you. But, man, you look at their receiving core outside of it. It is just not great, and I was kind of hoping they would do something. Now, Tyreek Hill and Stephon Diggs are both still out there on the table, but we didn't get to see Pat Bryant a ton last year. Now, granted, he's going to get some more opportunities this year, but Pat Bryant only had 378 yards last year. And then Troy Franklin had a good year. Evan Ingram. I guess you could also talk me into to Eli Stowers here too, but I think you could probably wait till round 2 to pick up a tight end. So I will go with Denzel Boston here. Give him another weapon in this receiving core. I ideally would have preferred Cooper or KC, but they both got sniped in front of me, so I guess I'll take the some people who are higher on Denzel, they'll probably like this pick a lot. So I'll take Denzel Boston there for the Denver Broncos.
Sure. Yeah. I'm behind. Denzel's in our 30s, and he's behind Casey and Omar for us, but I think he's still a really good player. So I think it makes a lot of sense. I think it's interesting the pairing of him and Cortland Sutton, but giving Bo Nix as many options as possible is the way to go.
Right.
And giving him all those things. I think tight end, like you said, is something that you could go, but I'm not that high on Eli Stowers. I'm not first round high, to say the least.
Yeah.
So
I'm
that's
more
my
like
biggest drawback.
mid round 2 is my kind of ceiling for him.
Right, and I'm probably there too, especially if it's predictive. I'm not as high on him as a prospect in general because he is a true like does not block, is basically a power slot like Oronde Gaskins type guy, and I'm just not as high on those players normally because at least with like Kenyon Sadiq he blocks and he at least gives effort. I just don't see that at all when it comes to Eli Stowers, but his catch radius is crazy and he's a great athlete, so those things are good. Some people talking about him in the first round just blows my mind a little bit. I just can't see it at all. So I'm with you. I think Denzel Boston's a really good pick. The Peter Woods, I think I would have gone Peter Woods here if it was me. It was close though. I think I understand where you're going though.
Yeah, I consider Peter Woods too, but I kind of feel like they have bodies in that room that they can work with. I mean, that was a really good defensive line last year, and yeah, John Franklin played a big part in it. But it was one of the two. It was between Woods, Falk, and Denzel Boston. But I think getting Bo Nix more weapons and that defense is going to be good next year no matter what. That offense really needs to, I don't want to say turn around because it was okay last year, but take a step forward. And I think getting Denzel helps their case out a decent bit.
Yeah, they have some of the best. Like they might be the most complete team in football, in my opinion. Like their offensive line's good. Their receiving core isn't bad. They have 2 running backs and then Bo Nix, but then their defense is just like stacked. So you have all the right things in place. So now you just got to get the guys that help your young quarterback be better than it was last year.
Yep.
So
there you go. You got the Super Bowl runner-ups. Who you got?
Yeah, the last pick for me. It's kind of a hard one. With kind of how the board is and the guys I like. The player that I think that fits the best, in my personal opinion, is Gabe Jacques. I really like him. I don't know where he's at on your board. Oh, 56. Okay. So he's a little bit lower.
This is a consensus board. My board would have Jacques in the top 40, I think.
Okay. So yeah, not too far from this pick. I think he fits what they do really well as an stand-up outside linebacker. But I don't know that's the best pick when you have, this is a tough one. Peter Woods still being on the board just kind of makes it hard. I also think Blake Miller is super interesting with Morgan Moses being older, and I think that they're gonna want to get a guy to play right tackle as his the next guy. I also don't know. I'm a big believer in Will Campbell should play guard. That's another situation, but I don't think that you put Blake Miller on the team and then put him at left tackle. So
yeah.
Let's see. I think I'm going to go with Blake Miller. I think I'm going to talk myself into it at the end of it because at the end of the day, they're going to get a Morgan Moses replacement. And wow, the comp. Look at that comp. That's crazy. There you go. This is the guy they like if you didn't know. So I think he makes a lot of sense for them. And their O-line just has to get better, especially after what happened in the Super Bowl with the insane amount of pressures on the left side of the ball. I think moving Jared Wilson to center is the move. Getting Elijah Vera Tucker to play left guard is going to be awesome for them, and getting that presence. But he's got to stay healthy also on top of that. So very weird when your own division gets a player. He was on the Jets and now he's on the Patriots, and the worst team in the division. He goes to the best team in the division.
All right, I got the last pick, the Super Bowl champions, who have kind of been ransacked with free agency departures. Tariq Woolen, Kenneth Walker, Boy Mafe. Who else lost them? A couple other. Oh, Kobe Bryant as well. So we got to fill some holes up here, and I'm going to go with Avion Sorrell. I think he is I think he's the best player still on the table here out of all these options. And you don't let talented guys just walk out the door, and you put him now in that Tariq Woolen spot. I do worry a little bit about him, Witherspoon, and Josh Jobe all kind of being a little undersized, but beggars can't be choosers. I think he is physical. I think he's tough. I think he's a good run defender for his size, especially. And I think he can hold up at the NFL level. And I think he could be an outside or inside guy. So he gives that, that flexibility that McDonald likes to have. So we'll take Avion Sorrell there.
Beautiful. Yeah, I think the versatility. The versatility makes a lot of sense with him, especially with
here
what
we
they
are.
like to do.
Our first round mock draft. I'll recap it really quickly. Number 1, Fernando Mendoza to the Raiders. Jets take Arvell Reese. Cardinals take Sonny Styles at 3. 4, the Titans take Jeremiah Love. 5, the Giants take Cardinal Tate. 6, Cleveland goes Micaiah Lemon. 7, the Commanders go Caleb Downs. Saints at number 8 go David Bailey. Chiefs at 9 go Ruben Bain Jr. 10, the Bengals go Mansour Delane. 11, Miami Dolphins go Jermon McCoy. 12, Cowboys go Akeem Mesidor. 13, Rams go Jordan Tyson. 14, Ravens go Spencer Fano. 15, Bucks go Sadiq. 16, the Jets go Francis Marianoa. And at 17, we got the Detroit Lions go Caleb Lomu. 18, Minnesota goes Dylan Thineman. 19, Panthers go Caden McDonald. 20, Dallas takes CJ Allen. 21, we got Pittsburgh taking Casey Concepcion. 22, the Chargers taking Vega Ione. 23, Philadelphia going TJ Parker. 24, Monroe Freeling to the Browns. 25, 25, Chicago goes Zion Young. 26, Buffalo goes with Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. 27, the Niners go Omar Cooper. 28, the Texans go Emmanuel Pregnon. 29, Chiefs go Caleb Banks. 30, Denver goes Denzel Boston. 31, Patriots go Blake Miller. And 32, Seattle goes with Avion Terrell. You guys, let us know in the comment section below. What did you hate? What did you love in this first round mock draft? Please check out his channel. Emery, shout out your channel one more time. And we appreciate you coming on here, man. It was fun.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's the rough draft pot. It's a red and it's a Florida State colored podcast. It's going to be gold and there you go. Yeah, it's right there. Cool. Look at that. It's got all the stuff on there. We got the big board up. We've got some featured videos and some stuff that's going on. Very small podcast right now because I just started it about a month ago, but I'm super excited to get it going. I really appreciate you letting me be on here and hang out with you today. And I'd love one thing, guys, if you haven't yet, go check out the website. The website is awesome. It's got everything you could need for free agency. The NFL, every NFL team, all their salary caps and everything. Yeah, no, you're absolutely killing it, Josh. It's got the NFL draft stuff for 3 years, not just this year. It's got all the way through 2028. It's got some fun games if you want to, collect cards and stuff. Like, there's all kinds of stuff on here, and then you can check out all the creators that come on this show and hang out. So I would recommend it. It's awesome.
Absolutely. We appreciate it. We got more content creators who will be hopping on the pod and doing some other things too. Again, please check out Rough Draft. We'll put a link in the description. He's going to make great content, NFL draft, whatever you like. He's probably going to do it over there. So you guys have a great day. We appreciate you guys for watching. And go ahead, Emery, say goodbye to the good people.
Yes, thank y'all so much for being here, and we will see y'all on the next video.